Hello everyone. Today's talk will be titled How to Maneuver Through Certain Strategic Communication. Sometimes throughout our life we find that we are thrown in conditions where there are contracts, where there's a certain communication, and for our co-creation to continue with others, there must be an acceptance of a reality. You must be very aware that strategy must be done with an awareness to the field. And so you must really see that the player, let's say the football player, needs to be aware of where the ball is. So you need to see where the immediate changes in your reality are occurring. And just get rid of your own ideas, how much you think you're doing good or bad, or well or advantage or disadvantage you are, and just immediately observe the change that is happening in your reality. This change could be that element throughout your day, which is either something new or someone's leaving or there's some happening going on through your moment throughout your day. Be aware of this. As you become aware of this, then you understand that sometimes by simply observing things, you get complex understandings. And you, in a sense, change the complexity of the strategy by trying to find the simple truth. So whenever you're in a condition, you don't know where you are, wherever you're lost in some kind of forest, stop and look around. Because you see, the person caught in the mist still has the certainty of his legs standing somewhere. Reality is not something to be too confused about either. You need to become able and contribute. And your contribution is not something that is like there's a demand for it in the sense that if you don't, everything's lost. No. Your contribution is coming from your internal, eternal knowing. So you're not doing it based on conditions, whether it's for a good condition or a bad condition. You're aware of it simply as life, working with life, becoming aware of life. Now, when I say strategies in regards to how people communicate, I have noticed myself that when I begin communicating with someone or anyone or in any type of being I communicate to, there is a consideration of that being's presence by me, and that consideration is coming by an understanding of me. So the strategy is overpowering you as long as you see that you have to give it a response greater than the person causing you, for example, harm. So what that means is when someone causes you harm, you think, oh no, I should cause him more harm because someone has brought wrath upon me, and now that's real for me, so I'm going to bring the same wrath upon them. This kind of thinking is useless in the sense that it's like one object trying to break another, and then that object trying to break another with itself. It's unnecessary. Communication can come at you in ways where it invites you as free at first, but then because you don't know and you're constantly accepting more and more of another person's, let's say, dictation, you suddenly realize, oh my God, there's a dictator here. You must first become aware of what you are and where your control is. For example, you have a proximity of going anywhere you want physically. But in regards to how, for example, society and culture is treating you, there are certain limitations, for example. Certain countries, or for example, there are many starving people in certain countries. So it's as if there's the human mind has led to a point of self-awareness where its creations are now creating alongside it. It's a very vast phenomenon where the being needs to have a very clear observance of the object of creation, and in a sense, the creator, the direct experience of the creator that is presenting our reality in the moment. Mainly when we see that when we talk about deep ideas, certain people, their reactions become ones where it's as if they want to say something because something doesn't make sense. And if we were to, in a sense, interrupt people if something they said didn't make sense, it would be as if like we are going with our own rules, and if people are not abiding by it, well, that's a bad person. These personal rules are all based on imagery in which culture has given you roles as an experiencer. So what that means is, for example, you've gone to that, for example, concert. You're that kind of fan, for example. You know, you like these kind of, for example, interests, and it's just pretty much an idea of a unique spectrum that each individual is in its individuality observing its collectivity. In that moment where perhaps that rock star is singing, it's as if he is dissolving everything into just a moment of being where sound is just sound and movement is just movement. Many people are attracted by environments where certain things are guaranteed. You must be very clear that desire is something the sage has always said be aware of. Because desire is what will suddenly take you off the path. You might be walking in the path in a certain state of awareness. Suddenly maybe you see something, you see like, oh my God, an apple tree. And you go by that apple tree, and suddenly you see, oh my God, it's been years and you still haven't progressed in the view of your, in a sense, the existential view that was moving. Do you know? We need to see what is contributing to our reality, and it must always be what is found in the present moment. Now is where man's mind actually begins to observe itself. Because time is an unnecessary image which is not kept. It's as if it was never time. Time was just a mask. What the mask was covering was the true face, the absolute reality of how a being is present within manifestation. You must also have the comfort in working with your internal dimensions in the sense that you're contributing to a sense of co-creation internal. You might suddenly find yourself in a scenario where you might require a clarity which you don't have. You might even feel it. You might be like, okay, I don't have enough information to make this decision, but I'm suddenly in this communication where it's as if someone else has a better strategy than me. When you're in a position where you don't know what's going to happen, I want you to realize that what you know is happening is where you are and what's going on. Sometimes we have to have the ability to move, to kind of, in a sense, zoom out from the clouds of thought which we've zoomed in. Sometimes in a moment we're so, let's say, entertained by certain thoughts that we cannot be aware of what is there. Do you know? It's like that joke was so funny. The guy's laughing and he's not aware that the dinner's, burning, on the stove or something. So it's very important to see the fluctuations that are happening and to recognize this is a ride and you need to hang tight. You need to be mindful, you need to be aware, and you need to cultivate things with a sense of natural flow. And a sense of natural flow means that it doesn't matter whatever amount of things however amount of talks I give, however amount of whatever someone does, it's just the awareness that it all fades. Do you see? So I may feel like, oh man, many people think, oh gosh, I want to be famous for a certain amount of time, but in let's say 7,000 years, do you know? These words would be simply just perhaps distant memories that are kept real by that which is passed on. It's very, very interesting. Perhaps one might go even so far as to say that those who feel there's a sense of communication with their future self feel as if reality is a simulation because they are like a distant memory. It's as if they are in a dream, but their actuality is present in a greater awareness, in a greater wakefulness. And so this sense of awareness, in a sense, kind of suggests, in my view, that regardless of how the communication is positioned, regardless of where you're heading, you must have an ability to handle your moment of existence. This ability comes with self-awareness, and this self-awareness is there to, in a sense, take you to a certain state where your flows of intuitive knowing come in. What I mean by that is, let's visualize a person who's scared. When the person is scared, he's shaking, he's doing some movement, but he's less aware. He's more internally there. It's as if death takes us more in, you know? It takes us to a position where our incapability is like dissolution, right? But at the same time, our ability also lies in dissolution as well. So you would see this person would take things to the core because he's being aware that his actions, regardless of how relevantly they were true, can also be irrelevant. Your truths can also not be true, and that's simply what happens when a spiritual person and perhaps an atheist come to meet in a conversation. Different human beings are going with different projections of experience, but the actuality of the experiencer is something where man is caught in the profound game of how can I perceive beyond the senses and what is there. And so those people who've been trying to think about it, who've been trying to do external changes, and even subtle external changes, have become philosophers, have become these writers, have become people who are trying to externally show the internal. And they see that for some reason all that it can be, it's like a mirror. It's like creating an external reality. A truth more than external reality is one that if I give you a symbol and a definition for, it's never satisfactory, because someone can always come and give you a new definition. We want to see that our truth has to be one beyond where our limitation is being associated to. Or in a sense, like we feel we are limited because of our environment. Well, what if you were present in a different environment? The mind needs to be active in a sense that it's constantly creating possibilities for itself. Suddenly your voice can become as intense as an ant moving on a leaf, or it can become suddenly as vivid as suddenly the sky's moving apart and a star just shooting. You know, your mind can see many things, and it's all kept here. Humanity needs to understand that the advanced communicator is a being who is really aware of his humanity. And as he's aware of his humanity, here and now, there is a profound reception of everything. It's as if life communicates to life. Our transparency in ideology gives us clarity that comes as a collective knowing, a natural movement, in the sense that that person who had intuition, it was as if his knowing came beyond the segmentation of time, beyond the past, present, future. It was a simultaneous knowing. It was a collective knowing. And that is what is key. That is the key to all doors. Because the key is not the problem. The key is the same. Each being has the ability. It's just that the doors are still there. So what that means is if the door to another dimension really opened to you, you would suddenly see you would have no need to communicate that dimension here. It is only when you think you're only here that your communication becomes like perhaps what that homeless man bursts in the middle of New York City. Do you know? The mind has been recording things, and if it's not taken care of, it will create its own confusion in the sense that we are not aligning it. And when I say we, you are a point of existential attention. You are life. Then you are whatever you can consider and co-create yourself in. But you must realize all co-creation comes from an ability to even see creation in the first place. So all beings innately know of manifestation because they've come into it. But in this game, suddenly, in this arena where we can do this, it's as if we need to take the existential responsibility to move out of this arena. If the cosmos put man's consciousness, if the cosmos put infinite consciousness into a limited illusion which calls itself man and wonders, wow, man, the world is so big, we would see it would be only the responsibility of the personality to allow itself to become transparent through an integrative and fractal view in which nothing is different because all is being perceived within the same moment. Your moment of awareness unifies things. Your moment of awareness, your moment of being is always your right. So what that means is, for example, we're acknowledging each other as bodies, and this is totally ignoring our internal realities. But if I acknowledge you as a moment of being, you see that you don't interrupt a moment of being. You don't govern a moment of being. A moment of being is as it is. I think pretty much we were all sitting around trees, and then one guy got agitated, and he just started going towards an industrial mindset, you know. But it's very important for me to see that mankind should move beyond the definitions of man that can no longer contain his expanding transcendental experience. So you see suddenly the kids that are being born, it's as if they innately know some of the lessons that other previous generations learned. Do you know? It's as if sometimes the wisdom that older generations see in the newer generation is how the human being is becoming able, how the species is moving towards a form where it's as if everything that the human being did, whether it was success or failure, was a contribution. It's just that society only acknowledged the success part, you know, those who did a good job, you know, and those people who did a good job, society, you know, created also a sense of money. Do you know? What is money? It's a creation of man, obviously, right? Because man needed something like that. But that need turned out of its hands when everybody began wanting money, you know? And so that created its own, I don't want to say destructive, but it created what needed to be created at that time. Like, we need to have financial systems now. You know? That's how it is. It's as natural as perhaps the design on that leaf, you know? It's just naturally what is present in this moment of being. Your sincerity is very important, because your sincerity is when you become honest with yourself to stop the act. What that means is many people have beliefs because there's others around them which they need to communicate the belief to. If there was no one around, you'd be a person who knows. It's like Tarzan just knew, and then suddenly someone started talking to him, and he just got confused, you know. So it's very important to see that you need to have a natural awareness, have an awareness to nature. It's healthy. And all these communications that might feel deceptive or the whole thing, you must realize you are receiving the moment. And because you are receiving the moment, you are choosing to take that in, you know? For example, if you constantly stay on your couch and you don't do anything, you're choosing to do that, you know? But you can, of course, go out and do a lot of things, you know? You know, many people advocate others and tell others to speak calmly. But not a lot of people say to listen calmly, to listen gently and mindfully, to be aware of sound, not as someone saying something to you, but as a projection which is real for someone and can be real for you, based on how you interpret it. It's fascinating to see how different human beings have different languages. These languages are all, of course, have different imageries. And so culture is beautiful in the sense that it fuels creativity. Because we are conscious of cultural values, because that is what is keeping our humanity in a sense. It's giving us a sense of sociability because we can associate each other differently. Life requires an awareness of all technologies that will serve you and, in a sense, create efficiency. Efficiency means that if something is not working, immediately you get rid of it. You're selfless because you are seeking to find the greatest self. You're exploring your sense of being alive. And as you do, no one's voice matters other than yours and the silence that is heard. When the tongue of man fades into the clouds, there are no words in that emptiness. You need to see that you know a lot. You actually do. But as long as life is a game and you think that this knowing or your ambition or your abundance or your wealth is a game that suddenly has to come, it's as if you're in a game and you're not playing so well, so the player is just, not doing well in the game, That is wrong. Do not make life into a game where you do not have enough ability to be excited enough to go do stuff in your day, to be active. Life needs to be an interesting phenomenon. It needs to be by far perhaps one of the most greatest rides. And you need to cultivate an awareness to this. And guys, in regards to any communication, I also want to share a story that's about Confucius. And they say Confucius was walking with his disciples one day, just walking with his crew on a mountain, and suddenly an old guy is going on the edge of a cliff, and he just falls down. So the old guy falls down from like some cliff waterfall thing, and as this old guy falls down, he suddenly hits there, and it's as if everyone expected him to die, but suddenly comes back out of the place with a basket, with a complete basket. It's as if the basket is untouched. It's like there's no water on the basket. So suddenly the Confucius goes up to Confucius. It's suddenly real. It's as if like he saw. Oh, okay, I get it. He goes up to the guy and tells the guy, "Oh, hello, sir. At first I thought you were a human being, but I see now you're a spirit." The old guy says, "No, man, I'm a human being." Right? And so Confucius is actually confused before he even knew he would inspire that word. You would see that the old man said to Confucius that when I fell, I was an old man falling. When I was hitting the water, I was the water. My essence, my being was like water, And suddenly, after that, he came out, and he's like, when I came out, it was as if, just like how a chameleon is, his whole being was, in a sense, adjusting to the flow of what it is. It was a very great human ability, I find. So similar ways of that we find is how kids nowadays are tuning into and jamming, Suddenly some kid comes out over, oh my God, these people are playing music. Suddenly improvises, and it's like different improvisations are blending into some kind of grand order, And so there is no composer, but I'm sure there's a great audience, always. So, you need to also be aware of transparency. And so communication doesn't have to be what it implies at first. So what that means is, like, if someone comes suddenly, you're sitting in the park, drinking tea or something, drinking coffee, and suddenly someone comes up to you and he's like, you are a criminal, you're a bad man, you're like let's say some random person comes up and just says some gibberish to you about what you are and who you are. You would see that you have a choice. You have a choice to let yourself be shaped by the communication of others. Or you have a choice to be aware of your being to such a degree that no communication reality is touching you. You are a transparent awareness, just present. And when I say transparent awareness, don't try to visualize this. This is simply just you getting comfortable with your being to a degree where your existential allowance is just a flow. It's that moment where you don't need to plan because everything as life is telling you where you need to go. And so it's a trust in a moment. And so when beings trust their moment, fantastic things happen. That is the profound thing they teach in teamwork. To trust in life is even a more profound thing, because there's no longer failure or success. You trust all of it. You know that regardless, you are here. And so life becomes powerful when you are not stuck in games that make you into certain players in which give you fear, and that fear does not let you, in a sense, have fun of the reality. Do not judge that which cannot be judged. You're a moment of awareness. And as it is so, there is no illusion that needs to be here. You know yourself, and your clarity is your presence. Much blessings and namaste.